Yeah. Hello, everybody. Hi, my name is Charlotte Mukan. I'm the director of the Pelham Art Center. We've been doing a lot of these virtual studio visits in the last 4 to 6 weeks. And I just want to say thank you for being here and for joining us in our virtual space. This has always been really exciting. Any opportunity that we have to learn about an artist and their journey and what inspires them. Hearing those conversations only inspires other people to do more things and to appreciate art in new ways. So that's why we're doing them. I know it's something I look forward to every week that we're doing. And I'm so happy that you could be joining us today. I'm expecting a few more people to come into the call as we proceed. And I know it always takes a few moments for people to connect to audio. So in the meantime, just very quickly, a few housekeeping things. We're going to go to Carol in her home studio in a few moments. But if you have a question or you think of something or a comment, feel free to use the chat box and you can type anything in there. And Carol's going to take us on kind of her journey through art and what her experience has been. And then at the end, we will take some question and answer live and it'll become more conversational so we can all start to talk about some of the ideas and thoughts about the work. So, all right, so that's it from me. Thank you so much for being here. I hope all of you are well, and let's learn about art. Okay, Carol.
All right. Thanks, Charlotte, so much for having me. It's just been a nice series that you've been doing. I have come to 2 of the studio visits, and you know, it's just a great way to bring art back out and get us, you know, seeing each other and sharing our work. This is when I finish my teaching semester for the year. It's often when I have a studio visit. This is when I try to, you know, get back into the studio and invite a few people in. So it's nice to see some friendly faces. Thanks, you guys, for coming. I'm going to start with, I'm in my living room. Usually if you would be coming for a studio visit, I would offer you a glass of wine or coffee or tea. So sorry, I can't do that, but I'm gonna, I did arrange some things in my living room. I'll do kind of a quick Passover, and then we'll come back in here later. So when people come to the studio, you guys, friends, family, and, oh, actually I do want to stop at something here. I just found out that this flag I made for a show at the drawing rooms, it was an open call, Jersey City drawing rooms, and I just found out they're going to use it for their show, the Prayers for the Pandemic. So this was an open call for a flag, kind of based on a Tibetan type flag, and since we're all dealing with the whole pandemic situation, and trying to just put out good karma, put out good feelings, and I had all this colored paper around. My daughter went to Paris recently, and she brought me a colored pad of paper of this nice, what is it called? I forget the brand. It was beautiful. It was too pretty to start using. So I just had it sitting for a while, and these are all these paint chips that I pick up at hardware stores that I was so excited to use for my graphic design color class, and then I didn't get to use them. So you'll see, you guys mostly know my palette. I don't use these kind of colors. So this was really fun to just do some cut and paste, even, you know, using some found materials of all these paint chips from the hardware store. So I'm excited. We did a little, I hung it on my fire escape. I hung it on a tree in Riverside Park, and now they're going to do some kind of installation later when they hang the show. So,
congratulations! That's wonderful.
Thanks. Yeah. It's definitely nice to be part of something like that. Just like your virtual studio thing, there's been some interesting open calls for different kind of things. Okay. Just an assortment of recent paintings and different kind of works. I have most of the assemblage pieces in the other room because I put the pedestals out so I can show them separate from all the materials, except this one in the middle I'll talk about a little bit. So, well, I'll go right to this one. You know, I have this, you know, most of you, I deal with a lot of architecture. I deal with like internal structures of things and a lot of drawings. So a lot of these assemblage, the new pieces in the other room are very linear based, and they're structural. And you know, quite a few years I've been collecting materials from the street. So in the old days and in the new days, because some of these are new too, I have some of my drawings out. And you know, whenever I'm talking about my work, it always seems to be this back and forth between looking at something structural and analytical, and then trying to make new structures in my abstract pieces versus looking at the structure itself. Like there's another drawing up there too, but it has a little bit of a reflection, it looks like. So this is these circular things are, I guess, from a car or a machine or something. And you've probably seen them, and just finding every pieces. I rotated them and push them, you know, to be the spherical form. I do have a lot of earlier paintings, maybe when I was doing a lot of churches and domes and geometric forms. I have a lot of circles and spherical paintings as well, but this is newer in a three-dimensional version. Keep working on it because these found object pieces, it's meant to look like another image. It's the duality of using the materials themselves and seeing the wire and the metal and the detritus and the rust and then not seeing it. And really it has to always be an image first. So I'm dealing with just the connections. Everywhere there's a connection. I add as much stuff in there to kind of make it strong, and then I'm painting on it in different places. And yeah, doing sculpture is hands, you know, and taking away the palette knife and the brush and adding other things. Let's see if there's another good spot here. Okay, so that's piece. This is a painting on wood that I've been working on for a couple of years that I put away and take out, put away and take out. Slow down.
Yeah, it's okay. We needed the video to catch up with where you were.
Oh, I see.
Just a reminder to go slowly. Yeah. Go ahead.
On me a little bit too. You can hear me now? Okay. So it has some relief elements. And since my usual palette has always been on the tonality side, gray, as I started picking up these cans over the years, I have buckets of them. It helped me with color. It helped me just try to match the color I'm seeing and make some contrast and make some rhythms. So that's happening. This has not the relief elements, but photos of some of the pieces from the street. So I can do either. I take photos of things, green plastic bags, purple plastic bags, things that jog my attention, and then trying to work them into composition so that I'm just copying things sometimes or riffing. So where was I? So yeah, a while ago I started taking photographs out in the street, and I have some works in the other room that are on paper that are about that. And so I just try to add to what's ever in the photograph and kind of, you know, draw around it, scrape and draw, and try to integrate. The elements are really meant to be integrated and, you know, become an overall image. These are two just much more raw pieces that I said, don't try to make an image out of it. Just get these pieces out there on the surface. So it's I just love these pieces. You know, these broken things, some plaster, some pottery, some glass and metal. I think I have a yeah, I'm not going to be good at reading the chat. So Charlotte,
Oh, it's
you'll feel
okay. Yeah, no, I have it for you.
okay.
We have some questions. We have some questions about the globe piece and
Okay.
that construction,
Yeah.
and how those joints happened. Were they soldered or how they formed together? And I have a question as well, kind of about picking up the detritus to make these found object sculptures. And when did that start? And when did that become part of the process?
Oh, thanks. Where are we? 2020, we're almost at the summer. So it was 2018 in the summer, and I had a bunch of little pieces around. I was basically using a lot of detritus in the flat pieces and starting to become relief pieces. And then, so the things that were too big, you know, that were not just flat pieces like flat cans and like even this is like a real big can that I just, you know, found and put down into some latex paint. Anything that was like not flat enough, I kept putting it in the corner because I wasn't, you know, I do two-dimensional work. And then, I don't know, forget what the first one was, but they were very small at the beginning. Most of those are in other places right now. I had a show in North Carolina that was really cool. And my friend was supposed to bring all my work back to me in April, and it's all sitting in boxes there. So I have a lot of the small pieces and a few of the little bit larger ones. But I was doing, there's a couple in the other room, just really small. Yeah, it just started. That's all I can say. It just started to grow that way because I'm using this cement. I'll show you this one. This like wet patching cement that, so this is about as thick as they were getting for being on a surface, you know, on a wood panel. But if you see like from the side, you know, it is coming out. It's starting to come out. I did some actual relief carving too. But so this was, you know, fun, and these were happening. I used this wet cement. So then I started using that as just a adhesive. So I would put some pieces together that way, and then it just kind of grew. So a couple of years now. It feels like a little bit longer, but, and I was just having problems making these paintings work. This is a piece this is even a few more years ago, because I've been using stuff in the paintings for quite a while. I realized this is like 6 years old. I'm like, wow, I was really using some heavy stuff in there, you know, glass from the bottom of a glass that I broke. I have bags of things that I break things a lot, not on purpose. So it's not all from the street. Sometimes it's my own stuff. So, you know, I never wanted it to be too cutesy by any stretch, but now everybody's doing, you know, sustainable materials and found object, this and that. I'm not thinking anything like that, except for that people make these things. Like people make these, you know, these bottles. I just took the Coke bottle and I, you know, glued another piece to the bottom of it. It's not done, but I like the forms. You know, I like, you know, the color and the texture and the shapes, and of course the color in glass. I love stained glass windows. I have a lot of my pieces. Ooh, there goes the phone in the garbage can. Put out some of my pieces that I find, and I mean, what could be more beautiful than that, right? Piece of an old windshield. So the kind of metaphoric side of it is things that are shattered and trying to put them back together again. I'm a little too close there. This is a bag of something, I don't know, that was actually a nice crystal ashtray, but I don't do well with nice things, you know, so much. So I like them. They're beautiful. I try to put them into something without being too cheesy. I also have my new because my daughter loves to do fingernails, and
We can't hear you as well. I don't know what happened.
oh, maybe because I turned that around. Well, I've been using nail polish too, very archival on some of the pieces that are in the other room. But part of the beginning also was like this kind of mosaic in plaster, using stuff in it. I call it mosaic. It's not probably proper mosaic, you know. I've done a lot of, I save all kinds of plastic to-go containers. So I use those for little molds for plaster, and then I carve and put things into those. Even, you know, just the patterns, you know, it's not design. It is about art and not design. You know, it's whatever you want to, however you want to distinguish that. But just looking at how things are made, it really intrigues me. So this is just some very cool to-go container, you know, with a little Starbucks thing in the middle of it. This new piece is like from a windshield with some other pieces of glass in it. But again, it really hopefully evokes something set from where it comes from and something totally else, you know, because otherwise it could just be like a decorative funky thing, and it's meant to cohere as the image. Lisa, well, okay, I'll show you the other ones. I was gonna show you, you know, my drawing of my fire escape, because I still am working from the scene here, and Glenn's here. He's commissioned me to do another piece from the Metropolitan Opera, and this it looks pretty abstract right now, but it's the interior, which you may recognize from some photos. So that's like still a very engaging process for me. And I always say, if anyone would paint me to draw a building, paint me to draw a building, I'd be thrilled. So I'm gonna come back.
And actually, that brings up such
here's
a great point, Carol. I was gonna ask just about those, that you have such a breadth of your materials and the detritus.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then you have these black and white charcoal drawings that are so observational. And if you can kind of talk about that relationship of going from I'm observing this, I'm drawing this complicated building, this exterior, the construction sites, and then going to these very abstracted forms.
So these pieces are getting more light now, and these are 3 or 4 of these newer finished pieces. So, or sort of finished pieces. Little larger, working with the kind of rhythmic movements of this whatever this is, this wheel. And I added, you know, they're pretty solid, even though they're like flexible, but everything is attached. So I'm really, actually it was Monica Bernier's husband, Bob Brashek, who said, use wire. I said, I have to learn how to weld. I really have to deal with this. And he said, use wire. I put a lot of stuff together with wire, and I was finding old beads and doing that. And the appearance of the nail polish is in this one. It's fantasy for the Fanta bottle. This is a piece that this was based in more of an emotional situation. I don't usually work off of a story or a situation, but but it did have to do with like women subjugation, women stuff. That's something that affected me very much. And I just grabbed this boot that I had in a pile of my materials, and I've been using cable wire from all the chargers that I break. So this one, I just started wrapping it and with the wire. And again, the joins are just like paper clips and different wire. And then I used like a orange gold palette. This one is got a lot of like V shapes, armature, and some I'm really doing my best to get a good picture for you with these. So like if you look at a realist painting and you look at all the details, because the details are so amazing, and I don't like to, thank you, Stacy Block. There are details, even though they're grungy and all this stuff, there's like some really fun details. And Lisa, I have a couple of friends here from a long time, beading, crafting. I did a lot of weaving, and here I'm doing these rugged pieces. I hope they feel that way and legit, but it's been really fun to add the textural details. And this is my latest one that, Lisa, the one you have is like car parts, with the shiny, and I found a whole thing in the street. I just felt like I was in Tiffany's or something, but again, it's putting it back together in another way. So you feel the residue of where it comes from, but hopefully you see it as another thing, de buffet, or it's got some cool, clear glass coming through, and even, oh God, I forgot. This is an old earring. I lose so much jewelry that I have a lot of odd ones. So it's got a little kitty in the corner, and but it's it's all together. It's all held together. So so I really want to make them firm, but kind of delicate still. So I have a couple more, and then we can definitely just start chatting. Okay. Got this piece with the cans. I've even had this like up on the wall, kind of sticking out, but it's kind of a fun one with wire and kind of church. I was thinking of, the Notre Dame, when that all happened, that was so awful. I do have a piece related to that too. It's not here right now, but this is, I want to kind of go further with this group. These pieces of concrete, from the street, and painting and adding, and then this is, I'll do this last, this little mini one. They're just funny for me, I just feel like I don't have like the world's biggest sense of humor, and I'm always so serious about my work and everything, and I laugh half the time when I'm making these, like at the kind of the absurdity. Oh, I didn't even show this one. This one that's back there. Kind of the absurdity and the sort of humor of them. So I'm hoping that all comes through. And as most of you know, then nothing is ever really super conscious in my work. I just try to follow the forms as much as possible, whatever the interests are. And so that thing with the two different types of structures, the totally abstract and the perceptual. I just don't have the final answer on why those two things are look so different. I would like to say, I would love, well, the show in North Carolina did have a blend between them. And some of you saw my painting center show last year. I had one of those big drawings was in it. Because I do those small drawings you saw, I have about 5 of those at 50 inches. And those were really fun to try to scale those up. But I've talked to people who do, like Peter Bonner, we had a long talk, the painter, about abstraction versus going after a scene. And it's so exciting to go after a landscape scene and just really, it's there for you to go after it. And then everything else is just a big blank canvas. So it's scary to go into abstraction. Scary good. So I'm not like
We,
done, but I'm done enough to
we had a few specific questions,
yeah.
and one was about one of the recent metal sculptures you showed with the white marks on it. And I believe you mentioned de Buffet on that, but can you speak about those marks and kind of where those came from?
Yes, well, that reminds me. Well, Dubuffet, I love modernism so much, and I love his rawness. But I did antiquities restoration for many years too, and so like the sensitivity to materials and kind of making something look a little bit like something different. Um, Disease on a bronze ancient pot, painting it with, acrylic paint with a toothbrush to speckle in the little spots to make it look gold. So I kind of had a lot of technique with that. And so even in my earlier paintings, you guys know this, if you scrape through something, a layer of paint, and you see the paint from underneath, how that type of archaeology comes through in one's own work. I feel that a lot, that you're always digging in to get to some new layers. So, but the painting of these with the white lines and stuff, it's almost making it look flat and then three-dimensional, flat and then three-dimensional. So, trying to get, those arcs. I took like a black glove, a plastic glove, after I put this stuff together, and just kind of drenched it in acrylic or something and sort of wrapped it around to kind of bind some of these pieces together. I closed my eyes because it's like feeling for something in the dark, it's much more tactile. It's really fun. But yeah, as far as all that art that I love, shape, Dubuffet, Picasso, I mean, it all is there.
Well, that brings one of the next questions is about the motivations and references behind the rhythmic painting behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, have you always loved those artists you mentioned, or like some of the others? Or I'm wondering, like, what some of the early impacts were on your, wow, that's abstraction, that's painting, I want to do that.
Yeah, well, I started really with the abstract paintings in about 2000. So now that I'm the age I am, it's like I have actually 2 decades of pure perceptual painting, 2 decades as it stands now of abstract work. And there was a Northern Renaissance show in New York around then. And there was another abstract person. So that all that flat, flat Northern Renaissance work that has sharp edged shapes, color movements, and shape areas was very, very influential to me on these and the ones from before I'm done showing you. And must have been Pollock. Must have been that big Pollock show, Jackson Pollock in the early 2000s, that of course I've always loved Pollock, but there it was just, and it was a lot of the earlier pieces and something, you have to go back to my notes, there was something specific, but the energy, the physicality of those was really, but I love Lasitsky and Malevich and all the black white painters, even now Louise Nevelson, who I always loved, but since I was never sculptural, there was that show at MoMA with that big room, that big black room she did. So a lot of great people like that. And also last year or the year before, that amazing Rauschenberg show that I had kind of passed over him a little since my early years. And then there it all was, like everything you could really imagine, which I almost went home wanting never to make art again after that one. But, what are we going to do? Give up at this point? And do what?
It's funny.
Yeah. But always carved things as well. Like I'm here by the cloisters. I don't really look at painting all that much anymore. So I look at anything like built things, architectural things, and all of those like medieval stonework I like very much. Any kind of carved stone is just great for me. And so it's kind of, we're lucky as artists. You get to mix all those different kinds of influences together. because we're so postmodern now. It's like you can't just love modernism anymore. So not that you can't, but it's kind of trying to find that next place.
What are some of your most recent projects? I know you have the commission of the opera, which is amazing, by the way. And you said those are for sale in the opera gift shop. So
yes.
whenever that reopens, I'm going to definitely look for those next time I'm in there. That's very cool. But then do you think you're moving like towards the sculpture? Because like you just showed us all these small sculptures, and that one of the big globe that's in the studio, is that still a work in progress? Is that one finished? And is that...
Well, I found a chair on the street. It's in the super's basement room. It's an iron chair, like a beautiful scroll, you know, not fancy, but it's got some beautiful curves to it. And I thought, damn it, you know, I'm going to figure something out to do with that chair. You know, it didn't have a seat in it. So, so I just have to see how it goes. I think I'm making these now. I do want to make some two-dimensional things again. But it's, maybe I'm just gun shy. All the paint gets so crusty on the canvas, on the palette, and there's so many great painters out there too. And I'm just struggling to make a decent painting these days. So, but I mean, that's not why it happened. It's just I'm engaged in this now. And, you know, it's fun as an artist to just do something you've never done before. And maybe that keeps me always on a windy road and not like, you do this, just do it. Just keep doing it and make it better. I see people like, went to Lynn Catula's studio. Some of you know her last year. And there's those gorgeous lemons still sitting and her pottery on the table, and the paintings still look great, and she's still finding new things in it. So I respect people who just, you know, keep going with what they're doing. But for some reason, it's not been how I've been wired.
Well, there's a long history of painters that invest significantly in sculpture. Maybe they go back to painting as well and do both, or ceramics, you know, whether it's Dubuffet or, you know, Picasso or Matisse. I mean, so many. Sometimes when you look at that lens, it's more often than not that there is a dual, you know, material. And yours, you've done so much work with investigating through drawing and painting the world out there. So now you start with something, you know, you do your archaeology and you start with something, and then almost like you rescue it from the street. You know, and so that seems to be very interesting. And there's a masculine hard, you know, with the black, there's a hard, but it's like you're giving, like you are a New Yorker, so you're sort of defining yourself by the forms around you.
Yeah.
You're really doing a lot of these new sculptures, so you seem very, very intoxicated with the combination of materials. And the spaces, you're learning about the space in between. That's the new element in sculpture, is the space in between gets activated.
Right. And, you know, like Maud Bright did that show at the New York Studio School Sculpture Gallery a couple of years ago that was sculpture and color. And so that just, there's always been, you know, sculptors who use color, but I hadn't thought of it that way. So that was kind of freeing also, to paint on different surfaces and see if my painting and, you know, well, I don't really want to turn this again, but I have another one that's more cement and paint.
Yeah, that sense of experimenting seems very big for you right now. Trying it out. Like it's somehow this open, new field for you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I can imagine you taking on other skills, Carol, even though you might feel it's late. I somehow picture you learning how to weld or,
yeah, me
you know,
too.
do more complex constructions. I mean, I really see this as a direction that you're going in. You're really pretty invested in this. You're sculpting, you know?
Yeah,
stuff is great.
That happens. Well, Marc Lariviere, an artist we know who lives up in Chatham, and we saw a beautiful show of his sculpture. He's been sculpting for a while now, but they were showing a lot of his older paintings with the sculptures. I said, you know, so have you made any new paintings? He said, I don't paint anymore. I'm a sculptor now, you know? It's like, oh, right, we get to do what we want to do. That is part of experimentation and that newness of it, you know, you got to get away from knowledge sometimes. And I know that I know enough to make a sculpture because form, shape, color, movement, direction. But like Jane, you say, the techniques, I went to a welder's studio. Meryl Teradash is a sculptor, you know, who teaches with me at City Tech, and her husband is a fabricator. And I mean, it was just wowed me, you know, and I thought, well, I could take my things there and fabricate, but I like the tabletop feeling. I like the kind of handmade feeling too. So we'll see where they go. But there's always a jumping off point with the materials that I find. I don't want to take a block of marble and start chipping away at it, you know, like.
No, but
You're on mute, Jane. Jane, you went to mute. Oh,
okay. The scale is changing, which I know, I mean, the globe is a big piece, so maybe you'll be doing bigger pieces.
Where am I going to store those, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. It is exciting.
Yeah.
You know, you just never know where life is going to take you and where art is going to take us. So
it's also, I think there's a very strong dialogue between the sculptures and the paintings, so that when you go back to painting, you know, they can sort of, you know, give you a new sense of space or forms. You might, you know, you utilize that just like you're painting the sculptures too.
Yes. I think they will.
Yeah, I think everything's connected, Carol. I mean, the drawings and the paintings look like the sculptures and vice versa. I don't see them as being disconnected at all. They're all structural.
Can I ask you a quick question, Carol? I unmuted instead of typing, too much typing.
Yeah, no, we're in discussion mode now. That's all right.
Okay, so I'm looking at the black and white piece. What I wanted to know before was whether or not you had scratched into the metal or painted on top of the metal. But more importantly, what I want to ask is that, you know, you are a person who likes to find things out in the world, and we have been told to stay home. So when you go out now and there's no one out on the street and it's very strange and you're in a mask, and do you have weird feelings about, hi Kathy, do you have weird feelings about picking things up and touching them and disinfecting them, or feeling funny about like going out into the world to find things when I mean, it's such a strange time. And, you know, and I asked you before, like, cutesy, cheesy, why defend it? You know, none of us are at home coming up with the virus, the vaccine for this virus. So beyond that, like, we're sitting at home. You know, I've made 12 blankets. You know,
it's a very creative time, isn't it? It can be. Yeah.
Yes, because I kind of feel useless. Like as you say, like, you know, what am I doing? Nothing that's really contributing to the world, but sitting on my ass, getting fatter, making blankets. But it feels weird to go out into the world. So if you're making pieces from found objects, have you been held back by having to sort of stay home, or do you still feel comfortable going out and picking up things? And is there anything to pick up? And
yeah, right. That's the thing. Come on, make some garbage out there, people.
When you go out and there's no people, does it like, you know, sometimes you get inspired by the things on the ground, partly because of the buzz of everything around you.
Yeah.
With no people, sometimes it does actually look more like trash. I don't know. It's like a weird.
Yeah, I've gotten a few new things off the street. I passed up some good stuff because I just did not want to deal with the picking up things, for sure. But these were all, well, this black stuff, this one, I think I must have had it. I had all this stuff before. I have a lot of stuff. But Ariel, my daughter, was sheltering up with a friend upstate for a few weeks, and I just picked her up the other day, and this was like the first socializing with anybody outside of myself, and seeing Glenn a little bit.
8 people.
And they, it was gorgeous, you know, we're like sitting on the patio and trees, but the man who owns the house is leaving soon to take a 4-year venture in his huge van, and rent out his house for a year. So he's burning some garbage and cleaning up the place or whatever. So what am I doing? Not looking at sticks and flowers and trees. I'm going through this. I said, you guys mind if I look through this fire?
Right.
And
Right.
people found a couple of very, very beautiful things, like an old stringed instrument and
Something out of my house.
I use gloves, but that was just country stuff. I just wash my hands. Glenn knows I don't, you know, I will pick up.
And I don't think we're getting the virus that way. It just feels like so
Dangerous.
tentative to go out into the world. And if that's what your inspiration is, then being kind of locked in your apartment,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's changed the way you're working.
I've gone out because I have a park here.
Are you
but-
breaking things on purpose? I probably am breaking things on purpose, but
Well, no, I'm not. You know, that's
not yet.
But
because
Carol
there
goes
is an
out to the
ideology
park
under all this.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Stacy, you asked about that piece also. Okay, and Janice, I want to respond to you.
Well, about because the intensity of Notre Dame, when the cathedral burnt, it happened to be the day that my mother was in surgery, big surgery for cancer, and also my passion for France and everything. I taught French for like 20 years.
Wow.
So I'm probably the only non-artist here, I'm thinking, possibly. But anyways, that was such an intense experience, the timing of it and the meaning of it. And I would be really interested in seeing what you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I collected as much of the colored glass that I had, you know, around. And, you know, it's like whatever your métier is, you know, you see a lot of brown glass on the street, you see a lot of green glass. You don't see purple very often. You don't see blue very often. So those were my special things. And so I did like a rough kind of rose window idea. And that is not here now. It's on my website. I don't want to share screen and do all that, but if you just go to, I think that's up, or send me. Well, we're in contact through. I can send that to you to look at. That was it's just meaningful to honor that. Actually, Glenn's kids, Isabel and Jeremy, were in Paris during that event.
Mm.
Tragic. What else? Meaning in the pieces that you pick up off the street, how you bring the histories. Here's the juxtaposition. Thank you, Janice. Yeah. Thanks. Ceramic slab constructions. Wow, there's so much, Dina. There's so much amazing ceramics art going on now, you know, and I did in high school. I loved, you know, ceramics and stuff, and I don't have access to anything like that. And no, but I've been really interested, you know, who are those few? Well, Tony Moore, who I showed with last year, who lives up in Cold Springs, is, I think, a really beautiful ceramic artist. And he's doing some new pieces that I've been interested in. And oh, who's that person? I like her so much. I'm forgetting her name.
Elisa Darigo?
Yeah, Elisa Darigo. I think she's doing some really interesting. Dina, do you know her? Elisa Darigo. She shows at
Elizabeth Harris.
Thank you, Kathy, my sister, who remembers.
I gotta say, it's really cool having your twin sister on this call and asking, like, she's gonna jump in and make sure to talk about all the things that she wants to hear you talk about. So that's really nice.
I was thinking, what about Linda Benglis?
You know, I've heard that name forever, and I'm sure I've seen her work, but I'm not. Doesn't she do a lot of printmaking? Or
No.
No, she was
has been very
soft sculpture.
well, actually, she's been doing ceramics with these really hard edge pieces with slabs, and it reminds me the way she can just paint across many different surfaces with one brush stroke. Reminds me of what a combination of your work.
Oh, I'll definitely look her up. Yeah, because I've heard about her for a long time. And, you know, women artists now too. There's just, there's so many great people working, a bunch of you included. So And Alice, you mentioned about the meaning of the pieces that I pick up, bringing their history. Well, I always feel when, when there's a shattered, everyone's seen shattered bottles in the street, but I always feel like something really happened here. And I imagine, because, I'm not a narrative artist really at all, but I always think of the story, especially like, this is an old boot of mine, but I have another piece that's down south still, that's a sparkly boot, with rhinestones all over it, and it was in a puddle. I'm like, how did that boot get in that puddle? And I love that kind of mystery of those things, and even the anger. Like, did someone shatter this bottle? Was this a fight? Was this, there's a sharp, hard edge to all of that, and I feel like it releases something in me. I think of that. I'm just thinking, hey, cool colors, cool shapes, but I know underneath there's something of this. Salvaging something that would otherwise be just a bunch of trash. To one person's trash is another person's treasure, right? But there is a sense of the story that's in those. That something happened here, and someone's upset somewhere or lost, or so that's an edge of it for sure, and trying to put those things. And then I don't know Kabbalah very well, but I know that whole tikkun concept of the shattered vessel, and the universe shattered, and it's the human's job to put it back together again and find the whole form. And that's like such a pared down version of what I know of that. I think when I start one day, when I do Torah study in my future life, I'll learn more about that. But there is kind of a mystical side of that, of putting back together what's
interesting.
You know what Leonard Cohen said? It's where the light comes in.
I asked that.
Through the breaks is where the light comes in.
Yes. Good. Yeah.
He was also referring, I think, to the same thing, because he was so always referring to all these Jewish themes and concepts.
Yeah, they are there for sure.
And he said, what was with the light coming in when something's broken?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
It's the way for the light to come in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And these are archetypal things we learn. For me, I learn it through art. I think if I decided, I'm going to do a group of pieces having to do with, tikkun and repair of the world, they would be very self-conscious, and the fact that it comes through whatever we call intuition. You learn, you study, you practice, you train, and then the rest is intuition and how to bring those things out. So, I mean, once you've done something, it's important to know what you did and how you did it, and maybe try to do it again, but it's a discovery process. And so I think all those big concepts, I'm reading a book about mythology. It's from a Jungian point of view about all these archetypes in mythology, from the creation, and all the Zeus, all the different characters, and how it's a psychological side of it, how these archetypes are in all of us. And I really can't be that smart about it right now, but I'm always looking back to those types of sources, and what is our story of civilization, Well, these are like artifacts. I mean, I do feel archaeology and artifact, like in the future when we're not here anymore and someone digs up New York City and there'll be all these remains, and then these, like, wait, did this just fall off of a building somewhere, or is this an art? So I like that kind of art, non-art blend.
Yeah, I mean, I asked that question because the sculptures, this is Alice, because I think that there's that sense of the spiritual is always in your work, and that when you talk about the Kabbalah and talk about, what you're reading now, it just feels to me that no matter what you do, when I look the pieces, the ones I respond to most are the ones that have that kind of spiritual sense within them that you're transmitting it. And I feel that it's in both of those, both your two-dimensional and three-dimensional work. That's why I asked that question.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, because we're searching, we're kind of artists who are searching. I don't know, I feel like religion maybe seeks for answers a little bit more. Maybe an answer is a resolved piece of work when you try to pull it together, but it's deep one way or another, and I don't find that I have that many religious questions because there's so much of a spiritual outlet in art that it does take care of a lot of that stuff. But it's oriented towards the self more, finding the core, finding the self, finding the expression of the self. And history of art is our history. That's what we get to build on or rebel against. So it's, it's great to have such a big history, all of us as artists, that there's so much to gain. And it's lateral too. It's not beginning, middle, end. When you're looking at a cave painting or a Renaissance piece, you can feel that it's very alive. We know that it's alive. And so it breaks that linear timeline that the rest of our life is on that timeline, the deadlines, the everything, which is why this whole, what we're in now, don't you all feel just like this sort of inner panic? Even when it's like, wow, I have all day, I can do my job in pajamas, I have shorts and flip-flops on. And Ariel said, so what are you going to wear later? I'm like, I'm wearing it. This is it.
Right.
Right? So we're like this private, but it's scary. It's scary because we don't know the future, and
A lot of uncertainty, a lot of suffering. Yeah.
Carol, there was a request to show the Opera House drawings. I don't know if you saw that. Can you go to the other room and kind of just grab those to show them?
Yes. Well, Glenn's in his home. He's got the painting of the outside. Let's see.
Well, you know what? You can even leave the computer so we don't have to worry about the Wi-Fi. Like the drawing that was on the easel.
Go get it?
Yeah, just go grab it because I think that'll be better than
right back.
Yeah, than the moving, the pixelating. You just never know with these how the Wi-Fi is going to be on that date. There was one we actually had to postpone a week until we had figured out a better router for an artist. And it was fine in the test, so you just never know.
Interesting.
If Glenn wants to put his camera on, he can go and do the other painting, but that's on my website too.
Wow.
Can you tell what it is?
Yeah, it's the interior. Yeah.
Well, since I so prefer to draw plein air now, or from architecture versus painting is so challenging to, so I'm working more with pastel, and that's been fun.
And that was from a photograph?
Yeah, I compile a bunch of different photographs together to get, because you can't really see the chandelier when you also can see the stage or see this part. So I dropped it down a little bit. I have a commission. Our friend Mike Lux, a good friend from Ohio, is also commissioning me for a drawing of a part of Cleveland. It has these amazing bridges in Cleveland with these big, Stacy, those big deco sculptures going over one of the bridges over the Cuyahoga River. I'm excited. I'm going to work on that. Yeah, I feel like we're workers. We artists are workers. So if I could connect with anyone who builds a bridge or builds a building, or it's just a building process. Yeah.
I have a question, Carol, about your teaching and your teaching career. Kind of have you found that's influenced your work at all? Or just seeing all those young minds, or
totally
the decision to go into teaching as a career and kind of part of that inspiration?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I didn't go into teaching to influence my artwork. It was, you know, it was a job. It was for a job, and it always seemed like that was very much a component of the artist's life. You know, to be open to the teaching of the art, and so. But with the Pratt program in drawing, with all the perspective drawing and the highly technical stuff, I certainly had a big learning curve there to learn, as we say over there, learn to teach and teach to learn. You know, so you do have to keep learning as you teach and teaching as you learn. And so it has been very symbiotic. My perspective drawings, I never, if you guys know my earlier urban landscapes, they were very deep space, but I didn't even know what a vanishing point was, you know, then. So when I started doing these drawings and said, God damn it, I'm going to put my horizon line and my vanishing points in. And like that was so retro to actually use that formal system. So I do use that a little bit. And teaching a very sculptural kind of drawing, geometry that was affecting. And some of the figure work too. I had to keep practicing a lot of my figure drawing to keep teaching figure drawing, because that was hard. But color, like that flag piece, you know, that's a fun piece. Color theory also I learned in college, but I don't teach. I teach color at CUNY, and that's always influential to a painter. You know, to really go into that kind of minutia with color and digital. Yeah, I use not for my own art, but for the teaching, I really like Illustrator, you know, Adobe programs and Photoshop. I wouldn't prefer to do that in my work, but that's been fun also, playing around with different types of forms. And I think it's all tools, you know, all these ways of making stuff is tools. I think digital space has affected the painting space that we see now a little bit. I don't know what some of you feel like that digital space is so deep and ethereal, and we're teaching perspective drawing to painters. It's like taboo. I almost feel like they need to unlearn that, when the ones who are going off into painting as their major, because they need to really understand flat space more. But I think that digital space and perspective space is creeping into painting, some in a good way. You know, I mean, these paintings of mine are more angular. They're not like flat. I see all these really good painters just doing these nice big flat chunks of color, and just not my thing, you know. I like angles. But all my early paintings were vertical and horizontal, Giacometti, you know, it was always vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. Then these early abstract paintings I did were all very circular, circle, circle, circle. I couldn't do a straight line, you know, to save my life. Now I'm in the diagonal phase. I feel like I'm just going like my daughter's school, Art and Design High School. It's got the circle, the square, and the triangle. And that's how we teach design, you know, those basic components. So I feel like I'm working through those geometric principles.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, I'd love to know, I mean, some of you teach, obviously, how that connection to our own work is, because I did remember in the parking lot, Lex Braze, who was a painter, some of you might know, I ran into him in the parking lot years ago, and I said, oh yeah, like the teaching here has sort of affected my artwork. He said, don't let that happen. You know, teaching and art have to be very separate. I don't know.
Because you get an academic look.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be able to learn from your students as much as they learn from you, or you close yourself off.
Yeah, for sure. They're great that way too, you know.
Yeah, not the lessons so much as the product. Their products are very inspiring, you know, what they come up with. But the lessons are a little bit programmatic that we have to teach. But I think it's important to teach the perspective, but to have a design element too, so that they understand what flat space is, just to give them that option.
Yes, definitely. As Jane would say, composition.
In the name of technology, though, I would so hate to see sort of the foundation of fine art be discarded so that things look nice on a screen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And my background, because I only know Carol and Kathy, is from a very traditional, I went to RISD, and our foundation year is pure tradition.
Yeah.
And whether you're going to be an architect or a sculptor or a graphic designer or an apparel designer or a painter or whatever you are, everybody does drawing, 2D design, 3D design, art history, and ad nauseum, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for the whole year. And the idea that like we would sort of flatten it for the screen makes me feel like we would lose the, not the integrity, but like the substance, I guess. You know, it's kind of like an empty box. It still looks like a box, but a full box has weight.
Yeah. You're right. You're so right. That's it.
I see that lost because everything is immediate and technology is the thing, and the next generation of people has even less patience than we do to wait for something to dry.
An interesting thing is happening though now. If I teach high school, not college, not university or college, and it's a really interesting thing that's happening with young people, really young, 14 through 17. There was a resistance to working from observation. Even if we have something, they photograph it and look on their phone.
Right.
Now, since March, I've had to teach all my lessons on Zoom, and I can only assume that they have a white printer paper, which they don't even have that. Sometimes someone had to draw on the inside of a pizza box, but white paper, a pencil, and maybe cardboard for construction because they order their food in. And my 11th graders have really fallen in love with drawing from observation. And email me pictures late at night, and they say, I was bored and I was looking at this and it's really cool. So
I mean, looking at their hand and then having to draw it.
Exactly.
So getting to have them focus on their lives has been very interesting. Out their window, and with this limitation. So it's given me a new sense of hope of observational work with teenagers.
Because it's so important. That's the foundation of your ideas. Like, you have to look around you and see around you and understand your perception of it.
It's always been pulling teeth.
What your phone's perception is.
Their reality is on the screen, though.
I know.
Yeah, it's on the screen. Yeah.
And now they're sick of the
screen. A lot of our students still really want to make stuff. They're kind of gun shy about digital work. Some of them, that's why they're at art school. They still do want to make stuff. But the observation thing is true, Dina, because they will, if they could take a photo of the still life and work from the photo, they actually would.
Amazing.
You know,
their phone's brain, not theirs.
Yeah.
I found that the students actually really fall in love with working from observation and also making things by hand. First semester, I teach light color and design at Pratt, and they slow down. They like slowing down. They like working with their hands. And by the time we introduce digital work, which I don't introduce till the very end of first semester, they understand the context that it fits into, and they understand the distinctions spatially and physically between something that's tangible and something that's virtual.
Right. Something that's virtual, you can't, it's not in your hand. It's like if your computer is turned off, it doesn't exist.
Right.
Which I find such a strange.
But they're basically glued to their phones all the time. You know, so when we work from master paintings, to get them to look at a master painting to work from a reproduction, I force them to make a print that's at least 9 by 12 inches. Otherwise, they'd be working from a screen that's 4 inches square, you know, and even to get them to go to a museum and see the actual painting and realize what it is, to get them to break out of using their phones all the time it's a challenge. You know, that's part of the culture that they're in.
Yeah. And it's nice because it sort of makes us feel that much more important, you know, like that we're giving them something that is useful.
But I don't think that that's changed. I don't think that will actually ever go away. The interest in making things by hand. I don't see that happening.
As long as people give themselves the chance to do it, then they fall in love with it.
Yeah.
But we have to sort of, I guess as you're right, Carol, as the elders, God, make sure, that's a horrible thing to say. Sorry about that. Make sure that they get the chance to touch things and make things instead of just their phone, so they know what that feels like and how interesting that is to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, a lot of it sounds like a lot of people are cooking. We are here more than usual. You can't eat a screen, right? Even if your tactile world is cooking, you know, people who are not artistic, people love gardening. Can't whatever.
Right.
Can't just look at pictures of flowers, they won't grow. So I think there are some areas in life that are resurgent, you know, farm to table and all the, you know, exquisiteness that people take in their things. Maybe they buy some of it, but the making, I mean, that just came to mind because the non-art people, what do they do? Ariel didn't want to send a letter to the people that she stayed with, a thank you note through the mail. She's like, why can't I just, like, who does that? You know, why can't I just send them an email, you know, or
everyone.
And I said, don't worry, but parents always are the ones who have to tell their kids to write thank you notes. You know, what my parents did, and I think they do now. But that was like, you know, kind of old fashioned for her.
It's true that, like, nature, you know, is the quintessential real thing. You know, you can't take a walk on a photograph of a path, you know, so it's like you can't smell. So it's like that, and you're right about food as well, which has a visual, you know, component. So you just remind them of that sports, you know, that art is like that. It's a visceral, real thing.
Yes, true. Although they do some crazy virtual things, I think you can smell. I think, you know.
Carol, I have a question for you.
I want to let people go too.
Have you ventured, into the sculpture department at Pratt? Have you ever, do you have any interest in teaching sculpture? I know you're busy with the drawing, but
I got to learn it first.
Right, that's true.
No, my dream was to teach architecture students how to draw, because our architecture, they don't get a lot of plein air drawing anymore, and that would be a kind of a dream. But I would rather go take Lee Tribe's welding class at the studio school to learn a few things myself, or Leonid Lerman. You guys, thank you so much for coming, everybody. I know we're friends. We could talk, but Charlotte, I know you.
Yeah, well, that was very interesting for me to see this conversation happen among friends and colleagues, and the art education aspect as well. Those are all elements that I think about on a regular basis. So this doesn't have to do with your work, but on Friday I was on a call with all of our educators and just talking about, like, hey, how's it going? Let's talk. Like, what are we going to do moving forward? So I love conversations about art education and how it moves and all of those ideas.
One thing to finish a semester online. It will be another thing if we have to start a semester online. We don't even want to think about it. You know, listen, we're so great. We can do anything, right? We can do it. We can make them do it. Like Dina, you were saying, you know, when they're working with materials right around them, and they don't have Blick to get every fancy thing, and they don't have all of our great resources at a school, and they have to, like, pick up the pizza box, you know, they'll learn that way too. But it's definitely not ideal, because the personal interaction, I think they'll suffer greatly from that. We'll get back to it.
Well, thank you, Carol.
Thanks,
Carol. Thank you.
And thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. Let me just do a little advertisement as well. On Thursday, we're going to be going to visit the studio of a Pratt graduate and a Columbia MFA, Kobe Kennedy. And on Friday, we're going to be visiting the studio of Arlene Rush. And next Tuesday, we're going to be visiting Sarah McKenzie at her studio in Denver, actually. She's an incredible painter and also makes a lot of comments about the spaces we view contemporary art. Very interesting. All very interesting artists. I just love talking to artists. That's why I, do what I do.
It's been terrific.
So, hanging up is always the worst part, guys. But thank you so much. Thank you, Carol. I really appreciate you sharing your work with us. And I know I probably learned the most on this if you guys all knew each other.
Yes,
And
yes.
I haven't been watching your work grow and develop for so long. So for me, this is really cool just to hear about all of it. So
Well,
thank you
thanks.
so
Well,
much.
I'm sure we'll be in touch, and you guys are doing such really good things at the Pelham Center, so appreciate that. And hope to see all of you soon. And let's Zoom. I guess that's
You got me to brush my hair today, so this was something.
Me too. I actually put some mascara on.
I missed you. No, we'll talk. We'll talk. And Jane and
Yeah.
and Alex, of course.
Good to see
And
you all.
Lisa,
Nice to
I
see
don't know
you,
Lisa
Lisa.
Kuntz, do I? I don't think I know Lisa Kuntz down here. Okay. Well, Charlotte, you're going to have to be the tough one and shut us all down.
I'm doing it.
We'll just
Doing
keep
it.
talking.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.